I would have thought that this would have hit our log, but let's see, do a show log. Oh, it isn't. So we'll cheat. A real quick and easy way to create a syslog message is just to go into configuration mode and then hit Control Z to break right out. You should get a syslog message saying that I attempted to configure this. And actually, while I'm here, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to set the clock because you can see that it's December 19th, whatever year that is. And I'm going to actually set it to the correct time. So hello children of the future. Right now it's 3:53 Central Time on the 23rd of March in the year of our Lord 2010. So this actually will have a couple benefits. It'll make sure that our clock is fairly accurate, and it also will generate yet another syslog message. So let's go back. And remember in the slides when I was talking about how this is not truly a syslog server? Notice that we don't have anything here. In order to get that, we have to go ahead and manually update this. And now we do have our syslog messages, and we can see that well, I changed the time here. This one's got the more accurate time. You can see that the SDM does not add its own timestamp on here like a normal syslog server would, so that's a little bit different. Let's go back to our configuration. So it was configure, additional tasks, and actually it's going to open up to the last configuration pane that you're on. That's kind of nice. We're back to where we want to be. And so we've got local logging configured. Let's go ahead and set up our remote syslogging. So that's going to be the upper part of this pane, and it's set to informational. That's the default. And let's go ahead and add, and basically it's just adding the IP address or the host name. You can use the host name if you like. Make sure that DNS is working on your router. I'll add a second one, but this guy isn't live, so I mean he's not going to get any messages because only this one is truly working. Watch out here because you do have to set OK to configure this. What I wanted to show you is that prior to doing all of this, you're probably going to want to set a ping. Well, let's go ahead and configure this first and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Go ahead and set OK. You can see command is pretty basic. It's just saying logging to, you know, in this case these two different IP addresses. And remember from the slides that what this means is that all syslog messages are going to be sent to both hosts. If you have 50 hosts in there, it's going to go to 50 hosts. It's not going to be, you know, oh, send it to the first one, or if this one's, you know, not responding, then use the second one, or any type of hierarchy like that. Send it to all of them. And the benefit of this is that if you have an issue with one of these servers, you know, hopefully not all your damn syslog servers will go down at the same time, and you will have some, you know, redundancy for catching these messages. So let's go ahead and click deliver. Okay, so now we can see that syslog, which basically is remote syslogging, is enabled, and we have two servers configured, and we didn't change the host logging level. It's still going to be level 6. What I was trying to tell you before is that anytime you're configuring a service that uses a remote host, what you want to do is you want to ping that host from your device to make sure it's online. You could do that from the CLI, but since we're using SDM and SDM says, guess what, I'm taking away from the hassle that is the CLI. What you could do is you go up to the top here, click on Tools, and check the second one here, which is ping. And then you don't have to put a source unless you want to, unless you're trying to specify to source it from a certain interface. In this case, there's only one outgoing interface, so we're going to go ahead and ping the IP address of our syslog server. And there you go. We can see it's successful. That second one that we configured does not really exist. So 10. What did I say here? 101. So now if I do this, it should fail. And you can tell it is failing here. To clarify, this is actually sourcing the ping from your device, not from your local desktop. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's what you want it to do, but don't get confused on that. And I'm going to go ahead and pause while this... Nope, okay, there we go. So that one failed. So this is something you're going to want to do when you're starting your configuration. You want to make sure that the devices are reachable. And let's make one quick change, actually a couple quick changes before we leave here. Go ahead and click Edit. And I'm going to set the logging level to debugging on our remote host, but I'm also going to change this so that the local only gets up to, let's say 3. And go ahead and hit OK. And we can see the message here, logging trap debugging. That's setting the logging level for the remote syslog. And here it's setting the logging level for the local buffered. It's including the size once again because we had that on there. Normally you wouldn't need to have that if you're in the CLI. Let's go ahead and deliver this. Now we've completed our configuration. Go ahead to the monitoring. And it popped us right back to where we were. But again, monitor logging is how you get there. Now let's go ahead and see what we can see on the local device. We hit update, and supposedly there's nothing in the log. And I know why that is, because when we changed that, we actually reset the logging buffer on the device. So those syslog messages that were in the log were wiped out when we sent that change to only log local up until errors. Keep that in mind, and that is one of the downfalls of having local logging, is that, you know, changes like that wipe it out. If you were to reload, you would lose all that because it's not a persistent buffer. It will lose it on reload or power cycling. Okay, this is my Syslog server. This is my actual router. So I'm going to get in here and I'm going to actually create a couple of Syslog messages. So if I go into configuration mode and then I jump back out, papers are falling around me, that will create some Syslog messages. And you can see this was probably the first Syslog, well, obviously it was the first Syslog message sent to the Syslog server. And here's my Syslog server in action. It's getting these guys right away. And this is actually good because it's created a system level 6 here. But let me jump in and do a couple more here. Int 0/0, shut, no shut. And I'll have some information in the lesson notes to show you a couple different syslog messages that you can easily generate. Most of the syslog messages that you're going to generate are going to be level 5. A link up down is level 3, which is kind of nice, because what I want to show here, so remember that on the local router itself we set the logging buffer to errors, which I believe is level 3, whereas on the remote syslog, and we don't see it here, it's going to be set to debug, which is everything. So we're sending everything to this syslog server. And you can see here that it's notice error. You know, it doesn't have the numerical, but you can see in the actual syslog message itself that this is a level 6, this is a level 5, this is a level 3. So we got a nice little mix here. We got 5, 3, and 6. When we hit update on here, what are we going to see? Remember that this page is only showing you the alerts that are in the local router's buffer. We're not going to see the same alerts because these are the ones that have been sent from our router to the Syslog server. Furthermore, since we have the logging level at errors, we're not going to see all of these because all of these are not going to be logged. It's only going to log Syslog messages that are 3 and below. If we're right, and I very often am not right, we should only see this single Syslog message because this is a level 3. Let's see if I'm as smart as I think I am. Go ahead and hit update. Booyah. This is something very important to keep in mind, is that this does not act as a syslog server. This is just basically a GUI that interfaces with the local router's logging buffers. And the other thing to keep in mind is that this doesn't update in real time, and we saw that it wasn't filling in here, whereas the syslog we were filling in here. This button is dangerous, so if you hit clear, it's going to say, does this will clear the log buffer in the router, you want to continue. In this case we do. Generally you don't. Well, that's interesting. It didn't. Huh. I thought for sure it would show me the command that it had sent. Basically this is sending a clear logging command to the buffer. So now if we hit update, we got nothing. As far as we know, that Series 0 interface did not go up down, but we still have that information on our syslog server. So that's one of the benefits of having a remote syslog server, is that it maintains these messages whether or not the local logging buffer has been cleared or not. Of course we can clear it up here. This is a clear for, but that clears the display. It should be saving out to a file. Anywho, I'm digressing a bit here.